Thanks for joining us for another episode of the Tea and Trails podcast, and thanks to Outdoor Active, Vela4A, Silver, Active Root, the Centurion Running Store, Protein, Rebel and Sportshoes.com for supporting our community. For the price of a coffee, you can unlock some great perks that will help take the sting out of what can be an expensive sport. Last but not least, thanks to all our patrons who dig deep every month and literally keep the lights hot and the mics on. Go over to Patreon and check out all of the amazing deals.
Welcome to episode 14. How are you doing today? Harry and I have just had a diuretic moan. And now we're going to turn that round around.
Oh, 5 out of 10 today, isn't it?
Well, 5 out of 10, but we're wondering if maybe you guys feel that. Is it that time of year maybe as well? So I thought I'd start with a little self-reflection maybe as you're running along or in the car, endless ferrying around of children waiting for somebody at work. Have you had a snow day? Did you enjoy it? Or was it a little bit of a pain up the backside? Have you spotted your first snowdrop or even a daffodil? Mum and Dad sent me pictures of first daffodils. How's your training going for your next race? Are you sparkling form or are you finding it a little bit of a struggle? I can't seem to get anything right at the moment. So I always think it's best. Honesty is the best policy. I'm tired all the time. Oh, juggling everything. I'm a bit grumpy with the kids, which I always find is unforgivable because I'm tired. And I'm mainly tired, as my mother would say, it's your own fault because you are doing too much. So anyway, shake it off, refresh. How you doing?
Well, I'm probably feeling very similar to you. I have been a bit grumpy. I'm just feeling a bit meh at the moment. It's not anything in particular. I think it probably all reflects back on my training, and we chatted a little bit about it before we recorded. Anybody observes, takes a wide look at my Strava will think, wind your neck in, Gary. You're running 80-odd miles a week. Quality sessions, long run, going to the gym. You're doing okay. And yes, I am from the outside looking in okay, but we'll all know within ourselves when it's not quite going well. And I think that's where I'm at. But my details for the week, about 80 miles. And then I did a nice walk on Sunday with George. That was good. So about 85 miles all in all on feet. Quite a few hours, 18 hours of running and a few hours down the gym. So quite a lot, and one quality sessions, and we did hill sprints too. We did an easy run on Saturday, and then because after talking to, I keep giving away tips from my Brew with the coach's question.
We should have done that one first anyway.
I know. But I brought something that everybody said maybe you could help with my uphill running speed into Saturday's easy run. But I cocked up my planning, and this is what's been making me feel a bit meh generally. But luckily I did my long run on Friday, but I cocked up my planning for the week, and I realised I was home alone with the children on Sunday, and Esme was out doing an escape room, which was quite exciting with a friend.
Ooh.
Yeah, so it was me and George, and I didn't want to just, the weekends are precious, and then for me to bugger off for a few hours on my own felt really, really selfish. So I went for a walk with George instead, and I'm feeling pretty tired overall. So again, when I'm thinking of being a bit kinder to myself, that was probably the best thing to do in the scheme of things. We walked to the cafe, had a scone, it was nice. Really. But I did my 2 core workouts and 1 weight session, and I love the trap bar. You mentioned it, and I saw Flora Beverly using the trap bar and Angela Green using the trap bar too. So I was all over that. And what it did, you'll know this more than me, it just made it the whole process of doing a deadlift so much easier to keep your form. So I'm all over that. The only problem is it's like nobody else uses it down the gym, so it's always tucked away.
Oh, I tell you what, setting up the hex bar, I call it.
Okay.
Same thing. Setting it up and taking the weights on and off sometimes is more hassle than the
pain in the arse.
If there's somebody there, I always go, "Oh, can you just help me take the weights off?" Because if you just got 2 people to take the weights off, but you mentioned in the notes a little bit that your hands hurt and they're not strong enough.
Yeah, a little weak hands.
Do you have gloves on?
No, I should do, yeah.
Yeah, definitely. So for any sort of deadlift or anything, any lift really, I would always wear gloves.
But I see these here, I'm like spying on people in the gym. Some guys and girls have these gloves with a little wrap, so they wrap them around the bar.
Yeah, that's what I have. So it goes over it's like a cycling glove, and then it goes around your wrist, and it's a nice support. I mean, I don't really need the wrap, but it makes me feel cool when I wrap it around.
So I might be making a purchase, to get some little, because I'm not lifting huge weights, but just the grip. Can't cope when it getting to the kind of 7-8 on the reps of that. I did my second battery Garmin test.
Oh my God, please tell me the details. I can't wait.
So basically people are catching up. I charged up my Garmin from complete I got a flat battery with the standard iPhone plug, and then I charged up again with this super duper 30-watt plug, expecting like really speed up the charging times. And it is 30 minutes faster, so that was fine. Okay. But not this. When you think this one plug is 5 watts, one plug is 30 watts, you do the maths, you think, well, it should be kind of charging up within maybe about half an hour. That wasn't the case. A bit disappointing.
So how long did it take to charge fully?
2 hours from completely flat to fully charged. And I think last week, I said about 2.5 hours, just over 2.5 hours.
You're actually the only, if you're thinking about like a spine race thing and you're worried about you are going to need probably, because you're not going to stop, maybe 2 hours max at the first checkpoint.
Yeah.
Unless you're vomiting everywhere. So you probably would have time but you're not going to maybe be able to charge it back up to full and then that's a long section to horse.
Yeah.
So you are going to need a battery charger and to check that you know how to charge and run at the same time. So that's really handy. That's handy to know, because I never actually checked my watch was charged, how full it was charged. I just put it to charge when I got to checkpoints, and then when I left, I took it off. So
interesting.
I mean, that just the brain, I was just I presumed it was there, and then I just presumed it was charged. Anyway,
but it was good. Not all plugs are equal. But I thought the results would have been.
Yeah, you were hoping like an electric car charger, because we've got an electric car and we don't have the super fast charger at home, and it takes 4 days.
Yes.
Because we don't have hardly any electricity makes it up the mountain. But if you take it to the super fast.
I didn't buy the official Garmin cable. I got someone from Amazon, because the Garmin cable was in 3 weeks you can buy it. It was shipping 3 weeks or.
Yeah, I just have a cheap, I bought 4 before the spine, cheapy ones. I didn't know that there was any difference. Oh my gosh. I've actually got invested in this project. Please move on.
Well, I need to buy some battery packs, I think, after you mentioned the one that you had.
I've sent you which ones are good. They're really good, those ones.
Yeah, I'll get a couple of those, I think, definitely. But you mentioned snow. We've had snow, and then obviously that turns to mud pretty quick. So I got filthy this morning. Yeah, me and Pure Rex, we were a right old mess. But then, it was wonderful. The flowers coming up too. So we had it all this weekend. It was really, really good. Very pretty out on the trails. I do have to share, the Active Route guys got in touch and they said they've got a special offer on or something, 1p plus postage. I think it works out at £1.50 for their sample pack of their drinks. You get about 3. Yeah, it's super cheap, but you only get about 3, I think. So there is a post in the Facebook group. If you scroll down, we I was saying earlier, we have some reach. We're influencers, Eddie, and I rocked up on my Saturday run, and Neil, one of my running buddies, had a Varga hat on, which is quite funny. Yeah, one of their fleece.
A new one.
Brand spanking new. Yeah, so I completely filled with FOMO, went home and ordered a Varga hat too. And I bought the bucket cap, because I'm on this eternal search for the perfect bucket cap, and I thought I had it last year's Lakeland 100. I think I bought a Crag Hopper one, but it blew off my head every time it got windy, while the Varga has a little drawstring just to make it a bit snugger on your cat.
I'm not sure we can be friends while you're wearing a bucket cap, but
so we'll see. That'll turn up in a few days, so I'm really looking forward to that. And for complete transparency, I paid for it all. I didn't reach out to Ellis for a little podcast favor. This was all Gary's own money. And super exciting news too, we've ordered the snoods. The snoods are on the way. They're going to take quite a few weeks. I'm not too sure why they're taking so long, but
there's a lovely story behind them too, isn't there? I think we should share that. Not now, when they're available to purchase. There is
I brushed it off. People asked me initially.
Good. I think we save it for content, because it's the best. It was your idea too, wasn't it? You're such a genius.
It's funny. Somebody pointed out the way, possibly for the designs, and then that kind of got my mind racing. Yeah. So, I am feeling a bit meh. Not the best week of Dragons back training. When I think about myself, I know people looking at my Strava might think, I think you're doing okay, Gary. Moving on. Thank you, Eddie. But Lent, I haven't been tempted this week. I'm doing
nothing in the basket.
No, and I did go on the co-op. Yeah. nothing in the basket. So yeah, moving on. Lent is much easier. What about you? How's your week?
How's my lentil fast? Well, I heard on Radio 2 Reverend, I don't know her name, the Reverend someone, and they're talking about their Lent. And they were like, yeah, we've slipped, you know. And I'm like, you are the Holy One of the Church.
Yes.
Come on, pull yourself together. We're still going. Yoga is still going on. I have to say, I'm on it's 21 today. So there's 9 days left.
I was thinking, it must be coming to the end. Yeah.
Yes. I mean, the improvement is massive. The wrist pain that I had post-spine has all gone now. And like at the initial, she was like, downward dog is your resting position. And when I started, I was like, are you joking? But now when we go into the downward dog, I'm like, oh yeah, because she's always going like, oh yeah, I love it, and I'm always like, shut up, I can't breathe. But now I'm like, oh yeah, I can rest in this position, and yeah. So there's depth, there's massive. I can side plank on my wrist, which I've never been able to do. I've always had to do it on my elbow because it's been too sore. I can do all sorts of, I mean, tiny little bits of improvement. And I'm definitely going to keep on my yoga. I've already downloaded the app ready, but I'm quite looking forward to choosing a practice that suits what I need to do. So she does run yoga for runners, and because sometimes she does like a breathing one, which is good, but I'm like, really, this 20 minutes I find in the day is the hard sort 20 minutes. And I want to be doing my sort of course. Sometimes they're brilliant. They're like, I like a flow.
How often does she put out content? Is it a weekly thing?
This was 2015. She did this.
Okay.
And so I think there's 3 or 4 30 days. Yeah, I think she does a lot. I'll know more once I explore the app and make everybody take up to this. Anyway. Yep, still no fizzy pops. I went out for a very good friend's birthday, and nothing was consumed. You shut up. Oh,
God, that tastes good. Oh.
I'm not sure if it's the fact you've planned that or it's not so happy.
Oh, God, it really is nice.
Gary has just brought onto the screen a can of Diet Coke and opened it up, and he thinks he's the funniest man
Comedy time
alive. Oh my God, did it taste good? Tell me how it tastes.
It is really nice. I don't have Diet Coke very often.
It was a bit early for a Diet Coke. Never too early. 10 a.m. for you. You're going to be buzzing. No, still had none. No Diet Coke, no chocolate. But I'm getting used to it now, Gary. I'm almost like, don't want to bring it back in. It's gone.
Well, they say it's 3 weeks, isn't it, for a habit?
So it's like 3 weeks. It's 3 weeks that I'm like, I don't really think about it anymore. So maybe I shouldn't bring it in. Bryn's like, just have one at the weekend. I'm like, you know us runners, it's all or nothing, isn't it? It's like out my life or in my life. You can't.
Yeah. I like black and white rules. I like a hard line.
Me too. You're either in the inner circle or you're out. There's no grey. There's no grey to Eddie.
Because then Friday becomes the weekend, doesn't it? And it's like,
Thursday, because Friday's like, pretty much we're pretty much there. Not much to report. Not a great deal of excitement over here in the Alps. We have been promised loads of snow, and it was just rain. It basically rained all week, which made running awful. Not only is it freezing rain, but it made the tracks, which were snow, just like ankle deep icicle sludge. One of the days I went out, and if I didn't have dogs, I'd just run on the road. Even though the roads are like pouring rivers, I would just suck it up and run on the road. But it's quite dangerous running on the roads around here in the winter, because one, there's buses that run up and down getting skiers to the resort, and they don't care if you live or die.
Like the runners.
They do not need to move off the road. They own the road. And then there's loads of people driving around, and then there's skiers everywhere. Anyway, there's not a super relaxing running on the road anyway. But I've got the dogs, so I've got to go on the track. A couple of times I said to the dogs, look, guys, we're going to have to come off the track. My feet were hurting so much, even with deck shells and Gore-Tex trainers on, the cold. And I think it is a spine hangover that my feet are I've still got a couple of toes, I've got a bit of frost nip on. So we did have to do some laps on a quiet bit of road, and Tarka and Lindy were like, this is rubbish. Tarka just stood there like, I'm not running up and down this road anymore.
What are you doing?
Come back. So So, but I did have a lovely ski day, as I said, with a friend whose birthday it was, and we did have sort of powder. It was like we couldn't see anything, which sort of ruins a powder day, because when you can't see the snow, it's a bit like being drunk because you don't know what is under your skis. So you kind of just and everyone's like, just feel it. I'm like, oh my God, I can't. What the hell? So we slid around. I couldn't see anything. The wind and the snow, and I got a bit of PTSD from up on a high cross stick. I was like, oh my God, this is what it was like. And all I had to do was ski down a little bit and the wind dropped, but that was super fun. Oh my gosh. But it was super hard work. So Friday, I was going to run a bit later, ski in the powder in the morning. And by the time I got home, I was like, my legs were fried. At the bottom of every run, we would like re-meet. It was really fun. So I didn't run. I gave myself a rest day. I had my biggest running week post-spine, just under 10 hours. I got to Sunday and I ran. We had a bit of a love run, Bryn and I, in the morning on oh my God, freezing cold rain, really hard. Oh, I did. Oh, got verbal diarrhea now, having said I haven't got much to tell you. I did a 12% hill efforts on the treadmill on Saturday night. Absolutely no plan to do that. I just wanted to do my run inside because I couldn't be bothered to run on the snow. Put it to 12%. And then as I went along, created this session from hell.
This is
ad hoc session. And when I came out of the back room, Bryn was like, "You're right there, love. You're right." There was quite a lot of. I was like, "Yeah, it was meant to be like a steady session, but it progressively became this beast." But I kind of like that. So I get almost 10 hours of running. And Sunday, I had one more. I wanted to get to 100K this week. So I'd done 10,000 feet climbing. I was about 55, 56 miles, whatever that is, in K. And I was like, I've got a 3 to 4 mile run to do. And I was like, do you know what? I'm not going to do it. I'm tired. Yeah. It's raining. Who gives a? I don't. I'm staying in. Did my yoga instead. Ate a scone, Bryn admit. So yeah, I'm happy.
I love that. There's a few years ago that would have just destroyed me. And like Sunday's walk I did with George, I didn't go out with Rex later on in the day, but there wasn't that second long run. But yeah, it's quite nice. And even we chatted like experience and stuff with Paul last week. That just comes with age or, more years of running, just being happy with yourself. It's nice. You can just, moving on.
And I'm really aware as well that this year, if there's a year I want to do 2 more races, and I need to be very mindful of the fact that the body is, even though it's 2 months away, gone now, I think the rest, I have to be careful for the rest of the year that what I did is slightly going to be in my body for a long time, and I just need to be careful. So I reintroduced a little bit of speed as well. Did the hill session. I'll keep that in now, and I'll keep the hill session on the treadmill till I can get a good decent amount of climb, because I find that translates really well. Once the snow goes, once I can get out in the hills, and I feel quite acclimatized to doing like an hour worth of climbing, which I've got out my door here. And then this morning I introduced a little bit of speed back into the legs. And again, I was super kind to myself, super mindful of the fact that I haven't asked my body to go faster than like a 15-minute mile. For a long time. And the 12% session showed that I have no self-control, because I absolutely love a hard session. And so I was like, right, I'm going to do 5 to 6 3-minutes, no more, minimum 5, maximum 6. You cannot do more than 6, Eddie. And you can't go above a 155 heart rate. So that to me is like a tempo sort of heart rate. That's a steady, I can sort of hold that for quite a long time.
Yeah.
So I did that this morning, just reminding my legs. And I think as well, if you are recovering from a long race, before I can put any speed in, I need to remind my body how to move again, because I'm actually quite fit, because I've got this massive base from all that spine training, and I've been building the running back up. I actually feel quite fit, but biomechanically, my body hasn't had to run fast or continuously for a long time. So that's my aim until I'm 12 weeks out from the South Downs Way, is to do all these reminder sessions so that then I can build on them, build the fitness. So 6 by 3 minutes. And it felt great. It felt good. Oh, I was able to, and I'm sure it's a yoga as well. I was able to hips forward, I've relaxed the shoulders, run like Sally McRae. That's what I was saying.
It's bound to do good. I can't see any negative at all from doing lots of yoga. And I get asked quite often about pace. And if I talk about threshold pace, I try and simplify it and say, maybe if you're going to run a race for an hour, this is roughly what you could sustain.
Yeah, and I think you can recover from doing sessions at that pace than any faster. When I really have to work the hamstrings, I find my old body is not so happy. So anyway, this post-spine work in progress, and I'm enjoying using myself as a crash test dummy.
I wouldn't mind if I had the disposable income, a treadmill purchase. I do get.
Oh, they are like at the moment it's literally amazing because I'm sloshing around on the trails. I can't get any sort of pace distance, but if I know I can do my sessions on the treadmill, and also it's so great when I've got the kids and I'm solo parenting.
This week's Brew with the Coaches question comes from Graham Tyreman. Now, Graham has a very angry Achilles. Now, Graham asks, having just spent the past 6 weeks nursing a very sore Achilles due to going for a run in trail shoes on a cold, freezing night, are there any hints and tips to prevent a reoccurrence apart from don't go out when it's cold? Calf raises and dry needling have helped tremendously, but this came on very suddenly, almost during the run, which felt as if the trainer was digging into the back of my heel. Not new trainers, wore them for OCC this year. Actual injury resulted in a thickening of the Achilles sheath. Any advice from the coaches would be great. Regards, Graham. Eddie, we've all heard about your Achilles journey.
The Achilles journey. Graham, I would say, as with all of these things, I hope you're seeking some physio help. We will give our own experience and perhaps experience of working with others with Achilles injuries. The best thing you can do is to work with a physio, a sports therapist, because Achilles need a lot of getting up into that Achilles and up into that calf, because the calf will get super tight, and probably the other side, the other knee will start hurting as well. We've all been there. So make sure you're getting some professional help as well. If you might remember, Graham, I'm sure as you're a patron, you're a huge fan of the show, but back in May, exactly the same happened to me. I was just running, not minding my own business, and my Achilles started to hurt. It was cold, and exactly the same as you, it thickened, and it felt like the back of my trainer was causing the irritation when I ran. I sought some physio help, and I ended up doing something called the Alfredson technique. If you've had an Achilles injury, you'll have come across this guy who got so annoyed with the fact that he couldn't do his job because he couldn't get his Achilles to heal. The surgeon wouldn't operate until it actually snapped. So he was like, right, I'm going to blast this Achilles until it actually snapped. And then he ended up actually making it stronger. Go and look it up. But the basic of it is that you do calf raises, single leg calf raises, morning and night. Is a lot of calf raises. I got it down to about 2 sets of 20 minutes in the morning, in the night, and I committed to that, and I did it for about 6 weeks. And within a week, the Achilles was feeling better, because it does respond really well to load. You just have got to manage that load. And that's when working with a physio is really good, because you can discuss how much load the Achilles take. And the Achilles will tell you, like the hamstring, if you overload it, it will be sore, and just be clever and back off it. But Achilles are boring. They take ages to heal, and it might be something that you end up then, especially if it's thickened, working with. It's going to be your Achilles heel for the rest of your life. Even you might end up having, it's something that you have to manage. It's something, I have one of those scraper things now, and so because my sheath is thickened, so if I'm in my ski boot, or if I wear a different trainer to my super comfy ones, it might rub it a little bit, and then I know it's a little inflamed that night, and then I give it an ice, and I give it a rub with this it must be a more scientific scraper tool, and it does feel better. I'd also say just check with your physio the drop of your trainer, because that's really important. You might have the trail running shoe might be a too low a drop, and sometimes insoles are the answers. But I would say commit to the program, make yourself a little tick chart on the fridge with this Alfredson's technique, talk it over with your physio, and have a go at that. I couldn't run in May. There's a photo of me. I literally couldn't step off the snowbank. My friend had to help me, but before she did, she took a photo, obviously. And I did the spine in January. So it is possible, but you have got to commit to the rehab and to the loading as well. So you got this, Graham. Commit, do it. Let us know how it goes. Trisha's been nodding. In fact, everyone's been nodding, so we've all been there.
Yeah, I agree completely.
You actually snapped yours. Mine was just angry.
Yeah, my well, not quite snap. It was a tear. It was a tear, and it took quite a while to get back on. But I mean, the thing that I found, obviously, like in terms of you need to get on top of your rehab, you need to get a programming, you need to stick to that program. But just for me, I found actually like just walking. I did a lot of walking, a low level activity, which was really, really helpful in terms of recovery. And actually now going out, I think particularly, I'd say top tips when it's cold are, you've got to warm up first. You've got to make sure you're really doing like your calf raises and your activation exercises prior to going out. The second thing I'd say is if you're going to do speed sessions, you're really increasing the risk of injury if you're doing a speed session in the cold and you're not warmed up properly. Even if you're warmed up properly, it's still the chances of you increasing injury increasing are still higher. So just be considerate. Like if you are able, if you lived in a very cold place, then maybe if you can do those speed sessions on a treadmill in the gym environment, that might be better, for example, than doing them in the cold all the time or at a different time of the day, etc. So that's another thing. And the other thing is wear appropriate clothing. So if it's really cold, I wear tights, and I've read quite a few studies actually that show that if just by wearing tights alone, you're just warming up the entirety of the legs just a little bit more, and so that again reduces can reduce the overall increase of potential injury. Because if you think about it, if you're wearing shorts and you go straight out into the cold, you're immediately your muscles are going to contract. So it doesn't even matter if you're warm, your muscles are still going to react and contract. So I'm a big believer in wearing tights or appropriate clothing for the weather conditions to try and help with that.
Do you think Graham is a short guy? I reckon he's.
Yeah, he sounds like a short guy.
He's a short guy.
I know he's a northerner, so yeah, he's gonna have a few cold months.
Oh, he's in the shorts and vest. The other thing, Graham, is cross training with an angry Achilles. Often you can do something which doesn't anger it. Cycling, so you can actually do your hard workout sessions cross training and leave just a load for easy running as well, and that's fine. Don't be scared to do that. Never be scared to do that. But you will just do, especially if you're looking for something like OCC or a trail race as well. You can get some great strength workouts cross training and leave just the trail running for just loading
or pack walking as well. Again, really
walking.
Really work for Achilles.
Load that Achilles. Load it, but under careful management.
I trumped both of you guys. I got a complete rupture my Achilles. So very proud of myself. Yeah.
Here he goes. Of course he did. Of course he did.
Rupture, and it still clicks to this day, and I have terrible scar tissue. And yes, like Eddie says, it's a lifelong issue now. So I have to do the calf drops every day. And yeah, I agree. I've heard of this Alfredson guy. And also with the walking that Trish says, low level loading for sure. What actually helped me a lot was barefoot and barefoot shoes. So I spent a year out in Australia to rehab from a total rupture. It takes a long time, and a lot of barefoot walking there on the beach. Really good to stretch out the calf naturally with low level loading that's not going to hurt too much. When we're in shoes with a drop, obviously we can use those when we're running, but you have to remember that is actually crunching the Achilles. So it's holding it in a kind of compressed state constantly. So they don't always like that. But I wouldn't recommend barefoot running because it's just a big jump. And most of us have spent most of our lives in trainers, and it just seems to go wrong more often than it goes right. But it's a question of, like Eddie said, the rehab every day. I stretch my calves. I do 100 calf drops every single day for the rest of my life, and that's just the tax that I pay to be able to run, and so it's okay. I would say that once you've got through the rehab, I prefer to get my calf strengthening work in, and this did come from a very good physio for GB Athletics, through a complete movement. So rather than the calf raises, which isolate the calf, which is fine when you're rehabbing, but then when you do heal, which you will, something more like a squat or the goblet squat, which gets the glute, the hamstring, the calf, the whole chain. Because if you just work on the calf, then you can actually create an imbalance and a tension there that causes problems somewhere else. So that's personally what works for me. And then I just do the stretches. Yeah. Achilles is normally because your calf is locked up and it's really tight, and then it's blown up your Achilles, and that's normally where it comes from. I hate tights. I can't wear them. Really restrictive. It's really annoying me.
I knew you wouldn't be a tight man.
Yeah, but I try.
It's funny that he wouldn't like to run around those tights, because I can imagine Russell would quite enjoy the sort of tight-fitting areas of the tight.
Legs, and they look great in black tights, but it just annoy me. But the compression socks, they work great. Yeah, you can find a pair that don't fall down all the time, because that's annoying. They actually work really well and keep you warm. And Trish is right, just trying to keep it as warm as possible is always a good thing.
The Dex Shell 3/4 length ones are really good too.
Yeah.
Keep everything warm. The knee high ones are a bit of an overkill, but the sort of 3/4 length ones.
Please wear those, Russell. Please.
You could wear those, Graham, if you're you could wear those with shorts and no one would know. But they keep the foot and everything warm as well. Graham, let us know how you're going on your rehab journey. We've got your back.
Loads of good stuff there. And I think we could all benefit from some warm-up routine before we do especially our kind of speed sessions.
We can't be bothered though, can we?
Oh yeah.
Boring.
You know what Alistair Brownlee says, with age, he doesn't get slower, his warm-up just gets longer. And my warm-up,
but he's injured
session,
so
I have to have 30 minutes before a speed workout. There's no way I could go into a workout. I need like 3 hours just for a 5x5 minutes now for the band work, the warm up, doing the session, then the recovery, and then the lie down post session when I'm absolutely.
Yeah, cool. Keep us posted, Graham. We'll have to know how you're getting on.
Good luck, Graham.
When I read Graham's question, I thought that was a bit above my pay grade, Eddie. So I'm glad you guys were there. Yeah, hopefully that helped, Graham.
This week, we talked to what we've called him, Trenchfoot Guy.
I wonder if that's what his associates refer to him
as. We've arranged a chat with him, we have just termed him as Trenchfoot Guy, but his name is actually James Forbes. All about setting up his own company, how he developed a cream to save our sore and tired feet. It was actually something I didn't use on the spine, but pretty much everybody I ran with was talking about this cream. So I looked it up when we came back and we mentioned it on the podcast, and actually James then got in touch, and he has come on the podcast to tell us all about why we need this cream on our feet in our lives.
Hi, James. Thanks for coming on the Tea and Trails podcast. We've not done this intro style in a while. We used to do this all the time. We used to ask all our guests, where are you? What's the view from your window? And have you been for a run today? But yeah, we've not done for a while, but we thought just for you, James, we'd bring it out of retirement. So yeah, where are you? What's the view from your window? And have you been for a run today?
So I'm based in Cornwall, so down near Hale and St Ives, about 4 miles from the coast path. It's grey and cloudy, and I got some fields and trees actually blowing quite a lot in the strong winds we got at the moment. And no, I've not been out for a run because I've got a cold, so I'm currently trying to clear that before I get out in the next couple of days, fingers crossed.
Talk about, solving a problem that's happened to you personally. But we will dive into that in a little bit later. But yeah, before we do, could you share with our listeners a bit about you and your journey as a runner?
Yeah, so I've always run, school kid as a runner and cross country and stuff, and then it fell to other sports, and I suppose once the love of sort of coast path running and sort of longer distance trail running became bigger in the UK, I kind of found something I really enjoyed, being out on the hills, on the mountains for a whole day and covering a journey. So my running kind of took off when that, as an adult, when that became more of the scene. Running kind of fits in with my outdoor lifestyle of sort of climbing and whitewater kayaking, so that the three kind of go really well together. If it's raining and I can't run or can't climb, I can go running, and I can kind of mix it up a little bit. So it's kind of a lifestyle choice of the whole three, I think.
Have you always been an ultra runner?
No, no. I suppose my first ultra was probably back in about 2014. And then I kind of choose a couple events a year that I think are interesting or I'd enjoy. I'm certainly not bagging lots of them.
You're quite lucky actually where you live, but yeah, you say a couple of events a year. Would that be again? You'd stay quite local, or do you go a bit further afield?
No, I've been up to Northumberland up to do the Cheviot race, and I've been out to recently this year to UTMB in Slovenia. So I went out there for their 100k. So that was really good. That was my first abroad race. So I'd like to do more of those, definitely. But happy to travel in the UK.
Is that a UTMB one where you have to do, is it one of these where you collect the pebbles?
Yeah, I think it is really. I mean, I'm not too worried about the stones and all that kind of stuff, but it was more to go out to a different country and run in their mountains. It was amazing.
I don't even know if this is a thing, but can you combine a kayak and a run? Is there an? I know you do swim runs, but is there a kayak run?
There is adventure races. I know there's some up in Scotland, but they're all on the lakes and the flat stuff. There's not anything I've found that's actually whitewater kayaking and running. That'd be pretty awesome, isn't it? That'd be pretty good.
Imagine.
Extreme. That would be extreme.
It would be, wouldn't it?
I love it. There we go. Start a new sport.
Yeah, absolutely.
What was your 2022? And yeah, I suppose if you've done any races this year, and what's potentially coming up for this year?
So nothing so far this year. So I finished last year with the Slovenia UTMB, which was pretty amazing considering it was meant to be dry, sunny, great running, and we had torrential rain, thunder and lightning, flash flooding, landslides, and eventually they cancelled the race. Luckily, I was fortunate enough to get through. But yeah, so it was a complete swing from what it should have been. Nothing so far this year, but I've got... I did Lulworth, actually. I did Lulworth by Trail Events.
Yeah. I
did their ultra a couple of weekends ago. And then in a couple of weeks, I've got the Northern Traverse by Araya Events. I'm quite looking forward to that. Be quite an adventure, I think. Well,
Eddie's got the 2024 penciled in, some heavy pencils on the Northern Traverse.
How's the training going for that?
So I've never done anything over that distance before. So I've really struggled to kind of compute that kind of distance into my head of, there's no structure of multi-day events. It's like the spine, isn't it? It's an A to B race, keep going. And with some big gaps between the sort of the locations of sort of tents and stuff. So I think we'll just get on the start line. Hopefully the training's good and see how long it takes and what the adventure's like, because I got no idea.
Have you managed to recce it? Have you managed to recce it, of course?
Not recce'd it. I'm certainly not competitive in sort of the front end of the field. So, for me, it's just an adventure and a great, not one day out, probably about 4, I think, but excited.
Yeah. Honestly, since I'd heard a little bit of the Northern Traverse. We've had a few guests on the podcast, but now with Eddie going to do it in 2024, I'm paying a lot more attention to it. And last couple of weeks ago, we had a guest.
You're bracing yourself for the story, Gary, of me trying to cross the country.
Yeah.
But I just love the idea of the route as it transforms from the lakes to the peaks and then the moors and then obviously the finish at the coast. And I love that point to point. It's quite symbolic, a journey like that. Are you going to take a pebble? I think
I will be taking a pebble. It is tradition, isn't it? I think I'll be finding the smallest pebble I can find. A pinhead of a pebble, maybe, but it'll be there. A grain of sand or something.
Awesome. Oh, I love it. Best of luck with that.
Exciting. We look forward to hearing you.
Yeah,
about that. And no doubt there'll be something on your feet that we're going to talk about now, both in preparation and during the race. Can you tell us a little bit about the history of the story? Because as Gary alluded to, there's a great story of there not being a product and you developing it.
Yeah, of course. I have a great wife who loves entering me into events that she knows I really suffer on. And have a lot of pain and discomfort. So she promptly after the Southwest Traverse, she signed me up for the Plague, the 100k mud crew event, to see me suffer.
Is she a runner too, or is this just totally...
she's a runner.
Okay.
Just gets great joy out of seeing me broken. And obviously that's a 100k race. It's an out and back. It starts at the night and comes out 32 and back 32, and it's in the summer. So I thought, no problem at all. But what I didn't take into account was the dew and the dampness that you get through the night in all of the fields and stuff. By 7 hours into running, and I was on the return, my feet were macerated and really painful. And then I completed the event, and then off the back of that event, you get a ring-fenced entry into the Arc. So Mud Cruise 100-mile winter ultra. Now, who wouldn't take the ring-fenced entry? I think that was always the plan by my wife.
Yeah, I was going to say, you obviously don't have a decision.
I think 5 seconds of finished, I was probably signed up for it. So I thought, well, if I've managed however long that 100k took, 15 hours or whatever, and my feet are trashed, I'm not really going to be able to do 30 plus hours. So I went about looking for a cream on the market that would stop maceration specifically, so not blisters but maceration, so trench foot and the soaking up the feet of moisture and going all wrinkly.
And if you've had it, it's the most painful thing for something that, especially in the founding stages of it, it doesn't look that bad. Yeah. Sometimes when you just get the start of the little creases and you're like, how can this be causing so much pain?
Yeah, and it is horrible, isn't it? And it just ruins races. So I went about looking for a product, and I searched Europe, England, obviously, and into America. And there wasn't really anything that was orientated towards specifically maceration. Chafing, blisters, yeah, but maceration, no. So I went about creating a product for my own.
How do you even do that? Like, is your background in pharmaceutical barrier creams?
No, my background is in the outdoors, in lecturing and outdoor education, and in sort of mental health nursing. So I've got no background in pharmaceuticals or chemistry or anything. So I looked at what were effective barrier creams. And then I looked at what isn't actually constitutes a cream that people use in sort of moisturizing and all that kind of stuff, and then whittled it down to, well, you need something that oils the skin and keeps it sort of moisturized. You need a cream, something that holds the cream together, so a wax, for example, and then you need a barrier. And a lot of these really good kind of creams have zinc in them, or non-nanoparticle zinc, actually, so it doesn't get absorbed by the skin. And then I went about creating that into a cream that would prevent maceration or reduce the onset of maceration. And I think that's the bit that we need to be really clear about. It doesn't stop it. It reduces the onset, and it should be entangled into a whole foot cream procedure. So yeah, I created this cream. I then went out and ran 100 miles in 33 hours in. So the Arc that year was actually in the year that they had all the diversions because of the horrific weather, the really bad mud, and then later on storms. And 33 hours later, my feet looked as if they hadn't done anything.
Oh my goodness.
Wow.
I got home and my feet looked as if they'd just been out, had some nice soft shoes on, and been for a walk around the garden. It was amazing.
Did the wife say, you've not done that race, you need to get back out there?
Well, I think that's why she just finds more things for me to enter up, because she hasn't achieved the outcome yet.
Well, was that cream revision 1, or was this maybe 6 or 7 revisions as far as the ingredients is concerned?
So it probably took me, so the plague is in August. I mean, it was back in 2018 now, but I think by about December, early January, I had something that was working. I was testing it by running through water, and actually the funniest thing is, when I building up towards the Arc, I kind of was using bowls in the house to make it with. So we loaded our dishwasher with all our dirty dishes, and the bowl that I make the cream in. I put the dishwasher on, set it all off, and the dishes didn't clean. because the cream had coated all the dishes.
More wife rage. Oh my God.
Absolute wife rage. Because now
I would be raging.
The dishwasher internally is covered in all contaminated by trench foot cream. All the dishes haven't cleaned.
Oh, the greasy film now.
Yeah. And it took about 5 washes to get anywhere near trench foot disappearing off of the dishes. Oh. So yeah, I kind of, by that point I knew that I'd kind of struck gold. 1 broken dishwasher and no clean dishes. Yeah, I'd won there.
I love it.
So what do you do then? You think you've got this product, you think that, well, you've tried and tested it on yourself. Did you try it on friends? Where do you go with it then?
So then I kind of used it on the Arc and had a great outcome. And I thought, well, I'm just going to give this to friends. You know,
okay. Did you think I want to make this commercially, or did you think no?
No, and for me, even now, it's not a necessarily a commercial product. I do it purely for the love of making it. I do it purely for the love of sending people out and hopefully them getting further than what they've done before, or with less problems.
Yeah.
It's not a financial thing for me. It's purely a love of making this product and other
love
people using it. Yeah, love of feet. So I started sending it out to friends of mine. I had a friend of mine locally who went out to Costa Rica to run a jungle ultra.
Oh gosh, yeah, very wet feet.
Very wet, yeah. 5-6 days multi-day event in the jungle, and their feet were in tip-top condition by the end of it, and other people's weren't. And again, they did a great foot care routine, so they did other stuff inclusive of that, foot massaging and all the rest of it. And then I gave it just my wife who went out to Lanzarote to race. That worked really well, and basically just started giving it to people and saying, go and try this on your races. It went out to the Marathon des Sables and had success there. And then I got asked if I'd do a like a festival kind of thing, you know, and I kind of signed up to that, and that's when I had to get the branding done and all the rest of it. Otherwise, I'd probably still be making it and just giving it to people.
I love it. Well, it's definitely worked. So you see, you've mentioned jungle, a Marathon des Sables. It's a kind of full mix of conditions there.
Yeah, it's been on the spine with great success. It's been on the Dragon's Back with great success. I actually worked 2021 on the Dragon's Back, and somebody I know was using it, and it was great to follow them each day and chat to them and say, how are your feet going and what's happening and is it working? You know, and it worked. It stopped the breakdown until much later on in the race.
100%. I'll be taking it because I'm lucky enough to be entered the Dragon's Back race this year too. So yeah, that'll definitely be my kit bag.
Yeah, absolutely.
You've talked a little bit about foot care, sort of pre-race foot care as well. If people are doing something like Dragon's Back, they're thinking, oh, I'm going to buy some of this cream. Presumably as well, you need to have actually thought through your foot care, not just the cream isn't the answer to everyone. So have you got any sort of tips you could share with listeners perhaps about how people can look? Because a lot of foot, having learned this for when I did the spine, that actually the pre-preparation of your feet is really important, as well as then looking after your feet during the race.
I mean, definitely, I think a great starting point for anybody is a Fix Your Feet book, because that's got all your taping in it and all the rest of it. For me, I'm quite lucky with my feet, so I don't do that much foot care prior to racing. My feet are in fairly good condition in that respect. Definitely try the cream. Definitely go out in all weathers and really try the cream and make sure it's working. And be aware of how long it lasts for you in relevant conditions.
That's really important, isn't it?
It is really important. So for me, I can get away with about on a wet race, something like the Cheviot Goat, I'll get away with about 8 hours and then I'll reapply. But on a dry race, I don't apply as much. So that's one of the reasons why it's packaged in a sort of kind of a small deodorant stick, so you can actually carry it with you. So a great tip that came out from the Dragon's Back was applying the night before. So, for example, when you're on the Dragon's Back, Gary, that evening, make sure you get a wash. Make sure you get in that river every night, whatever time you finish. That was a great recovery when I worked on it. Dry your feet off, get some cream on when you go to bed, and then and let that soak in, and then reapply in the morning. And that was a great tip that came out. And then again during the race, as and when you can. So there's a great point in the drop bag, isn't it? If it's wet and it's a really wet race, get your feet clean them up, apply some trench cream, and then clean socks if you have them.
It's much better to slow it down or prevent it than try and fight fires mid-race.
Yeah,
I think.
Yeah, and definitely, trench isn't something that stops this problem, because there isn't anything, is there? When your feet are getting wet, your feet are getting wet. But it slows it down. And reduces it. So that's it. That's the key. Regular application as much as you can manage, and what works for you in those conditions.
Are you a waterproof sock guy?
I'm not a waterproof sock guy. No, I mean, I think that might change on something like the spine. I think I'd have a different view potentially on the spine. I wear Dry Max socks predominantly. Okay. If it's cold with an Ingenie liner, merino liner. There are some clashes. The guy who writes Fix Your Feet talks commonly about Dry Max and a zinc-based foot cream. They clash because Dry Max isn't allowed to do the work if the zinc is acting as a barrier. I don't have that as a problem. So for me, those two work really, really well. But again, if you're having trouble with your feet, that's worth changing and playing around with different sock strategies.
It's definitely a sort of, Gary, it's a sort of you start now. Just even running, sometimes the different sock and the cream can feel quite different, can't they? Because your foot might move a little bit differently with the sock and everything. So it's definitely worth trying.
And certainly with trench, I find that I put it on my feet, give it a good coating, and then I put my sock on, and for about 5 seconds after, it feels a bit slidey, but then that instantly goes. I get no more increased foot movement or any of that kind of stuff. It's as if I had no foot cream on.
And it is quite a liberal coating. I remember this was on the spine race. I remember seeing some competitors putting a product on their feet, and they were just slathering it on their feet.
Yeah, I think, again, I mean, quickly after you apply trench, you don't necessarily see the whiteness that kind of goes. But I put it down to personal choice, and I get this question a lot: how much should I apply? How often should I apply it? And actually, that's personally down to you. I'm not your feet. And that's down to trial and error. What works for you? Yeah,
anything you're going to introduce, I definitely need to know exactly what works for me before the race. I don't want to be rocking up with the Dragon's Back race, kind of learning ad hoc as the days go by.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. And actually, I do a vegan cream as well, and I think for colder weather, the vegan one's probably better. It's a stiffer cream. Yeah. So that's worth. For warmer weather. For warmer weather, the vegan creams almost holds better.
And what's the manufacturing process like? Have you got some kind of laboratory in your garage?
The wife's out there with the bowl.
So I literally make really small batches. And I make small batches as and when it's required, so that it's not sitting around. So it's as fresh as it can be. And I make it down I'm quite lucky, my wife's got a bakery, so it's a clean, sterile environment.
This woman's amazing. She's a husband out the door, and she's got a bakery.
Yeah, so I get treats when I finish. So I go down there and make it down there of an evening.
Has anyone used it as a nappy cream? I'd love to know that, because it must be the perfect nappy cream.
They've used it as nappy cream. I've had it used as that. I've had it for people use for like sore feet, and it's really cleared it up. I've also had people use it for long distance swimming, and they
on
found
the neck.
On the neck. So it's not. When you have a cream, it has to go through certain cosmetic checks. So this cream's checked to go on your feet. That's where it's designed to be used. But other people have used it on sort of their neckline for swimming and under their arms, long distance swimmers, and they've said it's the best cream they've come across for stopping chafing. And I use it personally as an anti-chafing cream, and I don't chafe with it. From that point of view, I find it really good.
Have you got any ideas talking about of developing it any further?
There's other creams that I'd like to develop. Some like
a lip gloss.
Yeah, lip gloss. Yeah. I'd like to do some creams for sort of swelling and soreness post-race or mid-race on like a multi-day event, with some sort of herbal remedies. But that's just sitting in the pipeline. It's like kind of get a bit more time.
So we've got our pot of trench, as you've called it, so I'm going to call it trench too. We've got the cream. What are the top tips for sort of application and usage?
So top tips: practice with it in all different weathers, so you know how often and when you're going to apply it. and then what that works best with your socks. And then if you're on a multi-day or even the night before a big event, apply the night before you go to bed, so that it's then soaking in and you're starting with that first barrier on there. When you're using it, when you reapply, clean your feet with some wet wipes, and then I tend to carry a nice little towel with me, like one of those micro towels, but like about the hand size almost, so half a tea towel size. I can just clean and dry my feet, get them really dry, really clean of any rubbish, and then reapply that cream again. Another thing that I tend to do, which also helps, is I make sure I don't get any stones in my shoes. So anything to cause any grit, start getting into that already sore skin. And another great trick, actually, which I tend to use over like really long events, is I make a elasticated garter almost that goes around my socks. So not too tight to stop restriction, but it just stops my socks when they're all wet and they're all muddy, sliding down and causing creases, which obviously is going to cause more creases in the skin. And that's just giving pockets of moisture to start holding. Next top tip is, bear in mind that the summer in dry weather, your shoes are like buckets and all that sweat's going down into your feet. So maceration in summer races is equally as, if not more risk than in a wet winter horrible race.
I would never have thought about that. That's a really good tip.
Yeah, so summer races, desert races, that kind of stuff. You're equally as much risk of getting maceration due to, sponges on the top of the heads that people use. They get in a bucket, they grab a bucket, they put the sponge, or the ice caps now people wear. That water's all going down to the bottom of your feet. And your feet are hot and they're swelling. So again, you're at real risk of rubbing and maceration.
Can you imagine all those grains of sand and then sweaty, hot, wet feet?
Yeah, exactly. And
certainly right. You go and choose to run a silly desert race.
Well, winter races are the way forward, aren't they?
Aren't they just? Why would you go off and run in a lovely warm place with sunshine when you can run in the dark and the mud and the cold?
Absolutely.
And does it expire? I know you mentioned about kind of small batches, so it is as fresh as possible. But is there a shelf life to the product?
So it's got a shelf life because it has to, which off the top of my head, I don't know actually. I think it's about 18 months. I can go downstairs and check.
Okay, yeah.
But I've used it when it's been going on for a lot longer than that without any issue. The other thing that alongside the preloading the cream is be mindful of getting it on like car seats and other things. I did have somebody ring me and
oh
said,
no, there's not a story, you got it all over your car too, and then
not me, but somebody else did on the Ark, and then I've got it all over my friend's car seat. How do I get it out? And I was like, bit of elbow grease, maybe, I don't know.
Elbow grease.
a bit of baby wipe.
But it need, unlike Vaseline, so Vaseline obviously dries up and creates like, some people use Vaseline on their feet and it dries up and leaves that crusty nature day in, day out, that just builds and builds and builds, which can cause problems. Trench leaves no residue. So you don't get any crusty residue, you don't get any oily residue in your socks. That all goes. So actually your socks are good throughout the period of a race, which is quite nice to know as well.
I love that. Lovely. I would never have thought about preloading the night before. And little tips like you said about taking the wet wipes just to keep your feet clean, little bits of gold dust there.
And it takes minutes, doesn't it, to clean your feet up, chuck on a load of fresh cream, chuck on socks, and actually, for example, in Dragon's Back, if that's day one and you stop at Ogwyn Cottage, where there's a checkpoint, you kind of, day 3 or day 4, that's gonna give you more speed, even if you're only walking or moving really slowly, because your feet aren't sore. And especially by day 6 now that you're going to Cardiff and it's relatively flat for the Dragon's Back.
You want to have runnable feet, don't you? There's nothing worse. I think there's nothing worse in a race than sore feet, because if you've got like a sore butt or anything, you can sort of get over that. Your brain can sort of handle pain in your legs, can't it? But pain in your feet, it's almost like you can't switch the pain off, I find.
But it's funny because it's not like a herniated disc where it's quite serious. But the physical pain at that point could be like a 9 out of 10.
Yeah. Especially for you, Gary. Probably a 2 for me, a 9 for you.
Yeah. Well, it's definitely going to go into after another James actually came on the show, previous winner of Dragon's Back race. And he had a little checklist to do every day at the end of the day, just so he knew all the things you need to do before he went to bed at night. So that is definitely going to go on my list of jobs. Brilliant. Well, thanks, James. And how can people buy it? Where can we direct people to?
So it's via trenchfootcream.co.uk. So it's on there, and then you got the choice of the vegan or the non-vegan, depending on.
What's the animal product in it?
So it's beeswax. So
okay.
so it's beeswax in the non-vegan, and then in the vegan it's candilia wax. So it's a Peruvian tree sap.
I love the idea of people pressing order and then you getting down to the bakery with your bowl.
Yeah.
It's flooding in off that podcast now.
And it doesn't go. Now my dishes don't go through the dishwasher, so I'm safe from that point of view.
I love it. Before we let you go, do a quick 5 questions. First one is favorite sock and trainer combination.
So I'm currently using Drymax Winter sock, so the heavy sock with the Ultra Olympus 5.
Oh, you're an Olympus.
So I've recently transferred to the. Yeah, I'm quite sort of kind of like this cushioning on long distance. So I tried the Lone Peak, but it wasn't enough cushioning. So ultras with the Olympus with a Drymax.
I was out in the Lone Peaks today, actually. I've been doing a few miles in them, and I was going to mention on the podcast, I'd forgot how comfortable they were, the ultras.
No Achilles issues.
I did have Achilles issues, and the ultras have stopped the Achilles issues, so reduce them. So even though they're that 0 drop, I find them more comfortable on a long-term Achilles injury. So yeah,
most people would be like 0 drop Achilles. No, thank you.
Yeah, that's why it makes me feel.
I try and get Eddie to try these innovates out, and she's like, "Nope."
No.
Yeah, I really. I mean, and I like the ultras because of the toe box. I love the toe spread on them.
Next question. It's kind of a Squid Games concept, so you've got no choice about this. So you either have to run 100 meters in high heels or in flip-flops. What's your choice?
Oh, definitely got to be the flip-flops. I don't think I get half a meter in high heels.
I don't think I can keep the flip-flops on.
Disappointing, but we'll take it.
I think it'd just be a laugh. I wouldn't get very far in the high heels. I think it'd just be injury central.
Well, they are complete polar opposite to your ultra shoes. So yeah, that wouldn't go very well at all. Another shoe related question. If you could be in someone else's shoe for the day, who would it be?
Oh, who would I be in? I think I'd be in Killian's shoes just so I could spend a day out in the mountains in Norway. That would be nice.
And moving like Killian as well.
And moving like
Killian. Out, being like, look at me over this ridge. Not a problem.
Great, wouldn't it?
Yeah, that would be magic. Okay, right. Your feet can only take you to one place forevermore. Where would it be?
Wow, that's a question and a half, isn't it?
I'm proud of these questions.
That's like a question you need like a day to think about. My feet can take me to one place only, and I'd have to stay there. I think it would be Chamonix.
Would it? Not right now. It's raining. Turn right a bit.
But at least, at Chamonix, you can more or less do everything you want to. You can go running, you can go climbing, there's rivers.
Yeah, it's your paradise there. You can literally do. You can combine all your crazy sports.
Yeah, and there's good wine.
Good cheese.
Yeah, absolutely. So I think probably just outside Chamonix, because Chamonix is a bit busy, but in that area would be
great. Head up a little bit.
Head out of the valley a little bit.
Yeah, I like that. Just a mile or two out, so you can walk in there. Cool. Right. Okay. Every week we will share the podcast over on Instagram, and we will put some music to our social media post, but you have the choice, James. What song should we put with your Instagram story?
Oh, I've got no idea.
A band?
I don't have a favourite. That's a really tricky question.
You do listen to music ever when you?
I listen to lots of music, and that's the problem.
You have to choose, otherwise I'll just put Mark Owen, and Gary will get very upset.
Please, James, help us out.
I'm trying to think now. What can we choose? I really don't know. You've caught me out on that one.
Well, I tell you what, think about it, because this isn't going out for 5 days. You can message Gary.
I'll message you, Gary.
It will be a surprise to everybody what he comes up with.
If it's left to me, it's going to be some kind of rock or heavy metal.
Yeah,
if it's Eddie,
or me, it's going to be sort of Taylor Swift. Take that. Something. Maybe even the Pretenders.
It could be like Highway to Hell, couldn't it?
Yeah.
There we go.
You ever
There you
think?
go. Highway to
surprise.
Hell, it'd have to be, wouldn't it? It's just a pathway to hell when you're ultra
What's that?
running.
The guy of the young ones, he did that hole in my shoe. There we go. We could.
That's another good one. That's a good one, isn't it? I'll have a think and I'll get back to you.
Have a think.
Okay. Well, brilliant. Well, thanks for your time today, James. You take care.
Yeah, cheers. Thanks, guys. See you later.
Thank you so much.
Cheers. Bye-bye.
Yeah, I'm super lucky. I've never had race ending.
Touch wood this instant, Gareth.
Yeah. But I would definitely add this to my Dragon's Back race kit. Yeah, an event like that, especially where you've got this attrition just as the days go on, definitely something in the kit bag. If you do want to know more about Trenchfoot, head over to trenchfootcream.co.uk. We're always keen to shine a light on small businesses maybe that are within our space. So yeah, if you're one-man band trying to get into the running space, then yeah, reach out. More than happy to share your story too.
Gary doesn't want to sing this week, everybody. So here's his Strava leaderboard. I'll do the intro. He's not in mood. He said, I'm not in mood, Eddie.
I'm not singing this week.
Not singing, so I'll just do
I'll be back though. If you by popular demand next week, maybe I will.
I'll just do a Radio 4 introduction. Here we have the Strava.
Oh, you went straight into that. That was amazing. But this week, Giacomo actually, I think it might have been Facebook or Twitter. I'm not too sure, but I've known him, got to be a decade through social media. And he said he joined our Strava club and he was really impressed with himself that he'd made it he was actually on the leaderboard. And I said, I'm pretty sure I'll be reading your name out soon. And lo and behold, week 1, he's there with our highest
What a way
mileage.
to start. It's only downhill, as we always say.
Yeah. So yeah, 80 miles, which I suppose historically maybe is quite low for our leaderboard, but
It's a little disappointing, to be honest, but we can only work with what we've got, Gary.
But yeah, well done, Giacomo Squintani. Hopefully I pronounced that correctly. Howard Dracup took the number 1 spot for most time on feet with 17 hours and 38 minutes and 10 seconds. I'm not too sure how Strava breaks it all down. If that's an accumulation of everything or that is
No,
just
it can't be, because you'd be up there. It's just running.
That's what I'm just
this is what drives me mad. Sickens me every week that I'm nowhere near. Well, I'm nowhere near his elevation.
No, yeah, Howard again, just under 20,000 feet. And I would have got 30 more feet out of that week if I was Howard. So well done for owning those numbers. Very well done, everybody who is over and part of our Strava club. I love checking up. And for a few days, I thought, if I have a big run at the weekend, maybe that's why I'm probably feeling a bit down the dumps.
That is why you're feeling a bit down in the dumps.
But no, well done, everybody. And thanks for being part of that community.
We've got a happy birthday shout out. Are you ready to sing a little happy birthday? Happy birthday to you.
Happy birthday. Yeah.
Happy birthday to Karen Much, who's 50. Oh, should we say that? Yeah, I think you should celebrate your age.
50 years young.
50 years young on 16th of March. I'm not going to say he gave you a shout out. I'm going to see if you can guess and work out who it was. Apparently, you've got a little bit of an injury at the moment. It's making you a little bit sad. I'm sorry about that, but I tell you what, take up a little bit of yoga. That will really help. Maybe you do already. Anyway, big love. Happy birthday. Last week, we mentioned Nicola McNally, who was our top of our street leaderboard, and we sort of guessed that she must have done a 100-miler with the stats. Anyway, she was super chuffed that she was then listening to the podcast and was super chuffed that we'd mentioned her, and then posted on our Facebook group what she'd been doing this epic race, and she shared some pictures and a video, and the video of her 100k. Now, she embraces a man. I presume it's her husband. If not, someone she really likes, or maybe not, just a volunteer. She fully embraces him.
Random.
Oh my gosh, I doubt the tears were in the eye, because you could just see, I know we've all felt it. Oh my gosh, could feel she was only 100k into that race, and it's really only halfway. She's obviously really tired, but amazing. She had done amazing, and she'd had lots of lovely messages from people congratulating her. So I love the full circle of our community as well, that we had spotted that, and then we got the full cool story as well, because as you said, Strava, sometimes we'd never have known that. So join the Strava club, and then we get to find out all these little snippets of amazing information.
Yeah, thanks, Nicola. Because like Eddie said, it's lovely just to see the story behind the big numbers. I love that.
The story behind the big numbers. That could be Strava's catchphrase. Protein Rebel competition. Have you entered? I've entered. Can I win?
What?
Can I enter?
No, you can't win.
Oh, for God's sake. That's the point of this. Thank you to Protein Rebel for supplying this week's prizes. 25 maple ignite gels and 4 tins of their marine collagen are up for grabs. It's super simple, but still some people have done it wrong, Gary.
Oh, goodness me.
There are more votes than shares. So if you haven't shared it, you need to make sure that you shared it. There's 3 things got to do. You need to be a member of the Tea and Trails Facebook group. I hope if you're listening to this and you're on Facebook, you're a member. Even my mum and dad are members. Take part in the poll. Mum and dad, have you done this? And vote for which one you'd like to win.
It's pretty simple, isn't it?
It's pretty simple. Then all you have to do is share the post. All you have to do is press share. It's done. That's all you have to do. You don't have to tag anyone. That's it. We're done. And we are going to pick our winners at random next week on the 21st of March. We've extended the competition because it was proving super popular, and we felt we should give people the chance to actually follow the 3 things that they had to do. Oh my gosh, it's like the children. You go upstairs, you put your pajamas on, and you brush your teeth. There is just 3 things you need to do before mummy can sit down and not have a Diet Coke. We're trying to grow our community and reach more people. So we'd love you to share our Protein Rebel competition. And then you also might get a chance to slurp on those maple syrup gels, Gary goes on, or really plump up your skin with that collagen.
I think it's working, isn't it?
You are looking super plump.
49. I think I could pass for. But somebody did actually say I thought you were about 30.
Are they blind?
Oh, yeah. I think that's a stretch. But
sometimes I've stopped doing the Instagram stories, which is bad, Gary, because I just look so horrible. I just get depressed.
Oh, shush. No, you don't.
No, I just look and it's a close-up camera and it's all my wrinkles. And I'm like, nobody wants to see that. Normally a bit of snot or something. And I'm like, no, I don't need to share that. No.
Oh, Eddie, I'm missing them.
I know. But I wasn't. When I would see it, I'd be like, oh, God. People probably don't have
their
breakfast.
For 24 hours. They're gone then, aren't they? We have got a ton of 5-star reviews, and should we pick a couple to go through? There's so many, so we'll have to kind of make our way through these. And I apologize, sometimes I noticed on Apple Podcasts, because we do end up in the sports category and the running category, and I noticed there was a review in the sports category. So if we don't read them out, it's not because we're blanking you. It's we might have just missed it.
Oh my gosh.
Apologies if we do not read your 5-star review out.
Okay, Richard from Chef. Our unmet best friends, Tea and Trails. They go together like gossip and chat. The intro section makes us smile and laugh. Tea and Trails, they go together like that 80-20 rule. Brew with the coach, wise words and guidance. Tea and Trails, they go together to inspire and learn. The weekly interview spot, stories to fill the heart. Tea and Trails, they go together to tease and play. The roundup bit, our weekly fill of friends on the pod. Tea and Trails, they go together like Gary and Eddie, the double act. Our unmet best friends. Oh, a bit teary.
I love that.
Love that. Thanks, Richard.
And that's so creative. I'm always blown away how creative people are just to actually physically do a lovely poem like that. Thanks, Richard. I will go for Woolly Ghost. So happy when I realised you were back. Found the previous podcast in episode 85, then listened to them all.
Blimey, did we do? How many did we do? Jeez.
Goodness me, yeah, going back, because I think all the numbers were askew anyway, so 85 wouldn't have actually been reflective of how many podcasts there were, but they were absolutely gutted when it ended, so I was delighted when I found this one. I love the easy listening nature of this podcast to keep me company on my runs. Well, that's exactly what we plan to do, so that's great to hear. Thank you, Eddie and Gary, for all the hard work.
Closing stages, Gary. Here we are, final straight, coming around the home bend.
We
used to
made
be my favourite bit of the 800 metres, coming round. Ooh, coming round that bend.
Is that not where your legs are just like treacle?
Everything hurts and you find that extra gear. It's a favourite bit of any athletics race, isn't it? Oh, I love it. That's how I feel today. It's been a bit of a slog, but... What have we got? What have you got for the rest of this week? A long week ahead of you. You got a few days without me now, so it's going to be tough. It's going to be tough.
Yeah, actually, it's going
how
to
are
be
you going to fill your days?
cold turkey for the rest of the week. So more of the same old grind. I'm hopefully going to go. Yeah, that's how I'm feeling at the moment. Yeah, to the gym today. Hopefully it's Monday as we record the show. I know obviously it goes up Friday, so if I can get a gym session in this early in the week, that's always a good head start. I've done some easy miles this morning. Session wise, we've a threshold run, and I think it's the first one of the. It kind of breaks my training cycle. Seems to break into different blocks, and now we're in this kind of threshold run phase. So the first one 20 minutes, so that always seems quite doable. I might maybe move that to Saturday and go and do a park run. I don't know yet. Yeah, see how it goes. We've got some 400s thrown in there too, as one of the sessions.
Oh no, I couldn't, Gary. I couldn't. It would take me 400 meters to get up to the 400 meter pace.
Yeah, if I do that one, like always, I only do 2 of these workouts, and if I'm feeling really motivated, I'll have to do some proper grown-up activation because I just can't.
How many 400s is it?
You do 5 and then a little bit of a rest and then 5 again. And it is just that heart rate zone 4. So it would probably end up being maybe that interval pace, because to get your heart rate into zone 4 over 400 meters, you're going to obviously run fast.
Do you find as you get older, it takes you longer to get your heart rate up? I can't get the speed up. So when I was doing those 3 minutes this morning, it was actually only the last like 20 seconds that I was in what I would call the right heart rate zone. So I was like, so should I be doing like 5 minutes, or is that just the gradual decline in the heart rate is because I wouldn't want to go faster initially to get the heart rate up. So it's quite balanced, isn't it?
Well, this is what maybe make me feel a bit meh, because I've been doing some workouts and it's been a real struggle. So I feel like I haven't got much more to give, but my heart rate hasn't been where I'd hoped.
Often tiredness then as well.
Yeah, I think that's what it is. So yeah, quite fast, that interval speed, whatever that is, we'll probably just see how it goes, see how long it takes to get me into that heart rate.
Then it's going to tell you spent 4 seconds in your workout zone.
We're assuming that I do rely heavily on the heart rate strap. So if that's playing up, then that does kind of skew it all up a bit. Other sessions are a 45-minute fartlek session, and that's really good for us down the Dean. We can do that. So I probably will, because we've done the 20-20-20s, so maybe the threshold run isn't something new at the moment. I probably might go for the 400s and the fartlek. And I've just seen on the WhatsApp chat there might be a recce over the lakes on Saturday, which again has filled me with a bit of anxiety because I can't do that because I've just got to be home being a parent. So maybe
it's tough. It's tough.
I just need to be a bit more grown up and plan better and execute the plan better. Go to bed properly and wake up and get out of bed when. Fundamentally, I think a lot of people can resonate with this. If you don't get out of bed when you should get out of bed, then the kind of whole day moves on, and your opportunities to do things you want to do maybe
you've
aren't
got to
there
get up
anymore.
And get out. I have to get up, get that run in.
Yeah.
Otherwise,
hopefully, it's not all unicorns and rainbows. Hopefully, people can relate to this. I am not in a great place at the moment, but yeah, just try my best to get through it. So anyway, I don't want to make this some kind of downer of a podcast. What about you? Come on, Eddie.
I am. So I've already done one session. I decided to get that done today. I follow my plan organically. I kind of know where I want to go with it at the weeks at the moment, and then I try and sort of just go as I'm feeling. So I've done my speed for the week. I'm going to build my long run. So my long run last week was 2 hours, 15 minutes. So I'm going to do 2.5 hours this week. The tracks are so bad. I'm like, shall I do a little bit of that on road? So we actually get somewhere. Because we did 12 miles. It did have 2,500 feet of elevation in, and 12 miles in just over. I guess that's not too bad, is it? Considering we're running on rubbish terrain as well. So build that long run. Like you, I'm like, when am I going to fit that in? Because at the moment, weekends are not playtime. So I'm going to have to think like you as well, midweek at some point. Finish off my yoga challenge. So I'll just be almost finishing that. I feel ready now. I feel like I could start lifting some weights again, get back in my gym. But I think I'm going to finish my yoga challenge first and let that play out, because that does take up time. I don't want to add more time to, or as we're both feeling quite stretched, quite frazzled. There's meant to be some more snow up high, so I'm hoping for a few more powder days. I read somewhere like how good all this, like often I don't think of skiing downhill as training because it's basically sliding around. To me, it's like, but when it's on powder, I did look at my heart rate. It didn't actually go as high as my breathing. Then I thought maybe the breathing is more elevated as well because we're at 2,500 meters.
Oh yeah, 100%.
So the breathing's probably quite elevated there. But I'm still going to look at it as a bit of training as well. Because
Did you feel, sorry, when you came to England for the spine race?
No, don't feel any different. I don't think I feel... Bryn always feels amazing. I actually feel worse. I don't think living at altitude is... I don't feel great a lot of the time, and I'm sure I actually don't respond very well to altitude. I've never felt when I go back to England, it takes me like 2 or 3 days to be able to breathe again. But Bryn's flying. He feels amazing.
Yeah.
And I've never felt that great. So, and I still find like when I do fast stuff on the treadmill, that's when I feel I can't.
Oh, that's such a shame because you live there, and that would be such a great.
But maybe it's just me as well. I don't know. Maybe. So no, I don't live high enough as well. I still don't feel any. But I still notice when I go above 2,000 meters the lack of oxygen. And I normally do a lot of skiing up high, but because the season's been as it is and because I haven't skied nearly as much as I normally do, we're going to have great weeks, Gary. I just know it. I know it in our bones that this time next week, spring really have sprung. Get that long run in, and I think that'll give yourself a day off.
Well, I'm interested. Yeah, I know it's quite common. We hear a few people, coaches that have been on, they always have a day off in the week. And I don't think I'd have a complete sedate day off, but maybe I do just have a walking day.
There's nothing wrong with that. There's a bit of that. That's the same. I had my Friday is a skiing day, and that'll be tomorrow. And just movement is fine. Doesn't always have to be run.
I won't do that though. I'm just such a running junkie.
I know. You'll sail this, and then you'll be like 95 miles. Feel quite tired. Not feel I'm handling life.
I wonder why I'm tired. Yeah, I wonder why my hamstring hurts. Elsie Davis, I think she said something in an Instagram post about she'd increase the mileage and she'd start to feel some niggles again. And it wasn't huge mileage that Elsie was doing. So I quantify more is better, and it really is refreshing.
I know. Yeah, it's so hard, isn't it?
But it's refreshing to look at an elite athlete like Elsie and think, wow, well, she's performing on that level. And obviously she's genetically far superior than what I am.
Both looks and athletically.
But it's good to know you don't have to be... I could be wrong, but I think she was about 50, 60 miles or something.
Yeah, it's massive, but it's fast. She probably only needs to train like 4 hours a week because she's so super
this is another interesting thing. So my 80 miles, if you did the average pace, would be a hell of a lot of time on feet compared to somebody maybe like Damien Hall, who could possibly do 80 miles. It would be a lot less time on feet. So yeah, lots of things to consider. So maybe a little reduction in mileage.
Be kind. Reduction in miles and a load of calories. I often find that really helps if you're feeling a bit low and tired.
Well, I do.
In the fridge.
This is, I know we talked about me weighing myself a few weeks ago, but that is partly why I do it, just to make sure I'm fueling correctly. And my weight is stable. It's not, goes up a little bit, it goes down a little bit, but nothing dramatic either way.
Thanks if you got through the show. Woo. My goodness. Thanks to our partners. Don't leave us. And our patrons, stay with us. One last favor to ask. Don't forget to like, share, subscribe, follow. That would be ace. And if you've got nothing positive to say, I always find it's better to say nothing at all.
And that's it for another week. Thanks for listening or watching, everybody. Stay safe on the trails, run wise, run well, and don't overdo it. It's always better to be 5% under instead of 1% overcooked. Make sure you refuel with lots of tea or whatever beverage takes your fancy. We won't judge. My name is Gary Thwaites.
And I'm 2 Cups, Eddie Sutton.
And that was episode 14 of Tea and Trails.